You're listening to The Standard Angler, and my daddy's the host.
All right, well, special thanks to my sweetheart for the introduction, and welcome to the Sustainable Angler Podcast. I'm Rick Crawford, angler, sustainability consultant, and founder of Emerger Strategies. This season, we're launching the Sustainability Blueprint, a deep dive into how fishing and outdoor brands can grow, meet retailer demands, navigate emerging regulations, and protect the places we all love. If you're part of the fishing and outdoor industry, this is your roadmap to surviving and thriving in a changing world. Let's build better brands and protect what we love together. Today on The Sustainable Angler, I'm joined by Brent Kawamura. Brent is an angler who started his career journey from majoring in environmental science to helping building projects achieve LEED certification to working in product sustainability at REI. We take a deep dive into the REI Product Impact Standards, discover why REI is asking its brand partners to reduce their carbon footprint, and how their customers are demanding products with preferred attributes like the climate label, fair trade, and others. We also get a chance to talk fishing and how anglers have a responsibility to understand the history of the places we fish and the decisions we make can have on those fisheries. If you're a brand who aspires to get your products on the shelf at REI, you won't want to miss this episode. Hope you enjoy. And before we dive into the interview, I just want to say thank you. I'm truly grateful that you take the time to listen to this podcast. I hope these conversations inspire you to take action for nature. If you're enjoying the show, a quick free way to support it is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. The Sustainable Angler is available anywhere you listen to podcasts and is also airing Saturdays at 2 p.m. on Charleston's first and only community-supported radio station, OM Radio, 96.3 FM. This episode of The Sustainable Angler is brought to you by Emerger Strategies, Ecolytics, and a New Earth Project, the sustainability initiative of Atlantic Packaging. Hey everybody, Rick Crawford here. If you're running a fishing or outdoor brand, you probably got into this business for the freedom, a desire to work in an industry that you actually care about, and to protect what you love, not wrestle with sustainability scorecards and compliance regulations. But here's the truth. Retailers and regulators are paying close attention, and the brands that can answer clearly are the ones that keep their products on the shelf. That's where Emerger Strategies comes in. We help brands get retailer and regulator ready, and we help you make the business case for sustainability, so compliance strengthens your brand instead of slowing it down. That's why I built the Compliance Ready Brand Blueprint. It's a clear, practical roadmap that shows you what matters, what's coming, and gets your sustainability house in order in 30 days. If you want to protect your brand, your margins, and what you love, you'll find the blueprint at emergerstrategies.com. If you're running a fishing, outdoor, food, or apparel brand, sustainability isn't just marketing. It's directly tied to the landscapes, waterways, and communities your business depends on. But actually tracking and improving your impact can get complicated fast. Ecolytics is a software platform that helps values-driven companies measure and manage their environmental and social impact all in one place. Ecolytics helps replace scattered spreadsheets with a clear system for tracking things like emissions, sourcing practices, and social impact, so you know where you stand and what to improve next. They specialize in helping companies pursue B Corp certification, one of the most rigorous and respected standards for business sustainability. What I appreciate is that Ecolytics works hand in hand with sustainability consultants, including folks like me. That means companies get expert guidance and a platform that keeps the work organized, credible, and audit ready. Whether you're exploring B Corp certification or just getting started with sustainability as a business, Ecolytics turns your good intentions into measurable action. To learn more, visit ecolytics.io. That's ECOLYTICS.io. And mention the Sustainable Angler podcast to get a discount on your first year subscription. Thanks to Ecolytics for supporting the show and for supporting businesses that protect the places we love.
Yeah, thanks, Rick, and happy to be joining your podcast this morning. And thanks for having us here. My career in sustainability started, I guess kind of straight out of college, majored in environmental science, and got my first gig in green building consulting in San Francisco. So my role there was really focused on helping designers, engineers, architects, building owners pursue building projects in alignment with green building standards such as LEED. You may see those plaques on buildings with those 3 leads. So did that for a few years, realized I don't know if consulting was right for me, or at least at that time, right out of college, and shifted up to Seattle, where I managed sustainability at a Seattle-based grocery cooperative. My role there primarily focused on designing, developing, and operationalizing initiatives, all aimed at achieving their 5-year sustainability goals that were focused on everything from anything you can imagine within the grocery operation. So that's waste, energy, packaging, new store design and construction, EV charging, and in 2022, transitioned to my role here at REI. Where I'm focused primarily on product sustainability. So that's the kind of journey that I've taken so far, kind of starting from buildings to operations and now physical product.
Well, you might be one of the few people that I interview that can appreciate this, but so I got my start in installing solar panels and then manufacturing biodiesel. And then I got into green building because I worked for a green building software company. And that's neither here nor there. It was a startup that didn't work out. But what's interesting coming from the green building world and LEED certifications is there is a little bit of a parallel to like what was kind of happening when I was in that space. It was like 2013, and we're starting to see a lot with like product transparency. And I feel like that's like happening now in the outdoor space. So anyway, just a random connection there, but I do kind of make that connection when I look back on it, and I'm like, oh wow, yeah, you're kind of seeing this now, like with chemical ingredients and all sorts of stuff with products. So that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. In the building space, we talk about VOCs, recycled content, embodied carbon. And then now we start having similar conversations for outdoor gear and power, right? Like conversations around chemicals or recycled content. So there's definitely similarities across both of those industries.
Yeah, that's cool. So I got to ask you, so you were an environmental science major and you got into sustainability, but like, what was kind of your reason for going to study environmental studies and kind of taking this path?
Yeah, that's a great question. I knew I wanted to do something in the sciences, and I always joke that in chemistry class, I'm studying things I can't see. Like I remember this exam where I had to study atoms and we could use props, and I brought like little starbursts and straws, and I was trying to build these like, structures and atoms, and it was hot in California and it all started to melt on my desk. And I don't know, that's not related to why I did environmental science, but I knew I wanted to get into the sciences. And I think growing up in Hawaii and seeing how my home is especially vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, I wanted what I do to be purpose-driven and something that makes a difference in my community. And I saw environmental science as the big opportunity for me to pursue that, obviously environmentally focused, but then transitioning to that into, well, what does that look like in the professional environment? That's where I was drawn to the industry we're in sustainability.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, the REI, like I guess, I think anyone listening to this, unless you live under a rock, I think everyone knows what REI is. But specifically with your role at REI, right, with product and product impact standards, could you maybe give folks out there who are listening, maybe it's a brand who doesn't know anything about it, like what is this sort of environmental program that REI has created?
Yeah, absolutely. Sustainability has been ingrained in REI's operations and values for decades now. And the specifically, I think to your question around my role in product and our work in our product impact standards, it's kind of the core component of how we think about product sustainability at REI and the means in which we engage many of our brand partners. So this was launched early in, I believe, 2018 or so, as a way to set expectations and encourage our brand partners to provide them with guidance on how they can further strengthen their sustainability, climate, and inclusion practices.
Mm-hmm.
And those standards has evolved over time to adapt to things happening in this industry, what we know matters most to our consumers. And so, I think having these standards in place also builds on consumer trust, knowing that these are the expectations that we set for the 1,000+ brand partners and for the many products that we sell in our stores. But obviously, I think to your question around sustainability as a whole at REI, it extends beyond just product. We have folks in our team that work on specifically operations of our stores and distribution centers, folks that are focused specifically on carbon accounting, net zero strategy, and of course, our supplier engagement with all of our factories and facilities that manufacture our products, engaging with them on things like decarbonization, human rights, and fair labor practices.
Yeah. So I love all of that, right? And because you've got, on one hand, I'm sure you've got, REI has a net zero by 2050 goal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so
Right.
then you've got a team working on that, right? So to actually achieve that, and then on the other side of it, you're also a retailer, so you're selling other brands. And I think this is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is something that a lot of brands don't understand when they're being asked to measure their own scope 1 through 3 emissions is, well, REI will never achieve their net zero goal if you are not also working to measure and reduce and hopefully work towards net zero as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And in the world of carbon accounting, scope 3, particularly for a brand, makes up the vast majority of our emissions. So little plug, we just launched our annual impact report, which has a tremendous amount of information around our sustainability practices and everything beyond that. But in particular around carbon accounting, you can kind of see that breakdown of scope 3 emissions. So just over 50% of our emissions come from, to your point, Rick, external brand products, and around 10% or so comes from our co-op brands or our private label brand. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of my role in product sustainability is, well, one, engaging our own product and team, designers, engineers, material developers on how we address our own products or how we think about sustainability across our own products, as well as the external brands and the 1,000+ brand partners that we retail. How can we engage them on that journey? A couple of years ago, we had set a new expectation in our product impact standards to measure and set a science-aligned target. And as of today, approximately 75% of our brands by demand sales have set a science-aligned target. So
Wow.
Again, setting a target to reduce emissions, including their scope 3. So it's it's an opportunity and a challenge, right? A lot of our emissions do come from our external brand partners, but as I mentioned, as you've seen with setting targets, our brands do care. Those brands do care and want to do what's right for people on the planet. And we at least we see our product impact standards as helping them along that journey. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I think that maybe, or at least in my own consulting practice, like all the brands that I talk to, like they all really do care. It's just the education component of it, of going, okay, well, how do I actually do this, and what do I need to do, and to put this kind of to boil this down even further, if you're a brand leader listening to this and you're going, oh yeah, I think I've heard of scope 1 through 3, like what is that? Your scope 1 and 2, just call it your operations, your heating, your cars, your vehicles, and your purchase electricity. Everything else is scope 3. So it's like this massive part of your footprint. So that can get really difficult to dive into your supply chain. And so these REI product impact standards are I guess helping a lot of brands start to think about this and start to ask these questions so that they can set those targets and hopefully work towards reduction, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And REI works with brands of various sizes and product types, and so brands that maybe one or two people to obviously much larger global brands. And so we see the product impact standards as not like, hey, this is what you need to do, but as a resource as well. There's a lot of resources out there, and the product impact standards provides that information directly to our brand partners to say, hey, you don't have to start from scratch. There's a lot out there. Here's where you can start. For chemicals management, we have our restricted substances list. Use ours as a start. Those brands know their business way better than we do. So create a program that works best for you, but the standards does pinpoint or identify what are the key focus areas that are important, right? Chemicals management, animal welfare, greenhouse gas emissions, and many others. So, in addition to the standards, we also provide other, guidance and resources and opportunities for brands to take advantage of and helping them further develop their programs and strengthen where they are.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so the REI product impact standards, I guess because REI really has been on a sustainability journey for decades at this point. What was sort of the reason behind deciding to create these impact standards? Was it the goals that you had set? Was it hey, this is missing? Like, can you elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, I think it's much of what you described, and how can we best engage our external brands while acknowledging, a lot of our emissions do come from external brand products, but also, how can we broaden our impact beyond our own brand? And that's kind of, the impetus to creating the standards and what it is today and how we continue to evolve it. And again, like I mentioned, it provides them with, guidance. We're not just setting requirements or expectations and saying, hey, this is what you need to set, but providing them with those resources to further their program, and so that we can go further together and not just on our individual selves. And I think that because the customer trust is a big one too, right? Like, you shop at a store that a retailer that you trust. Well, why do you trust it? Well, at least for us at REI, we have these expectations around human rights, for labor, animal welfare, chemicals management, not just for our own brand, but expectations for all the other brands that we retail across our stores, so that you have that knowledge when you enter our doors or go to our website to shop online.
Yeah. And I mean, I've experienced that, right? Like, I mean, because I know about the impact standards, and it makes me feel better if I'm going into an REI, just knowing that, like, it's not that you're vetting them, but it's just that, hey, any product in here is being, there's been an expectation set by REI for them. And to your point, 75% of them now have science aligned targets. Like, that's amazing, right? And who knows what that would have been without it, right? I mean,
yeah. And one thing I should also mention too, as a part of the standards, are what we call preferred attributes. And so these are voluntary product certifications or attributes that we encourage our external brand partners to pursue for their products. So those include things like fair trade, recycled content, so on and so forth. And much of those features are actually searchable on rei.com. So if you go to the side kind of banner, you'll see a sustainability section. And 41% of our sales in 2025 came from products that had at least one of these preferred attributes, and we see that number continued, or we've seen that number hold strong. So it's
was it 41? Is that what you said? That's awesome.
41%, of our sales in 2025 came from those products with at least one of those attributes.
Yeah. So if you're a brand listening to this and you're going, why should I think about using some of these preferred attributes, aside from being better for animals and the planet and people. It seems like there's a growing number of REI customers that are supporting brands that have these attributes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing to hear, because it's something that in sustainability we talk about a lot, and there's lots of studies that say, oh, this number of we did a survey and this number of consumers said that, or this percentage said that they would support brands that, have sustainability. But this is real sales data, which is amazing, right? And 41% is nothing to sneeze at. That's significant.
Yeah. Yeah, our customers do care. We've done some studies to understand like what are consumers interested in, what do they care about, and sustainability is certainly one that is top of mind for them, as well as many others. And I think durability or quality is another like topic within the world of sustainability that we know our customers care a lot about. Our most recent update to our product impact standards really focused in on strengthening our expectations around quality. So setting quality standards, making sure that when these brands are design, developing, and manufacturing products, that they meet their own standards, so that they can be out in the outdoors being used and not in our landfills. I know anything that you own, right? You want it to last, and that is the most basic and most impactful way that we can minimize our impact, is at keeping it in use for longer. So beyond that, right, we have our resupply program. We sell upwards of 1 million units, 1 million units of product through our resupply program. And this is our re-commerce program. So all of our stores have a section in our stores where you can purchase products that were gently used, or if you have products sitting around in your garage that you're like, I gave backpacking a try, not a fan. Well, you can hop on our website or to our stores and sell that back to REI. So just some of the ways in which we know our consumers really care about sustainability. I think durability is a big one for us, and I know many other brands that we retail.
That's amazing. 1 million resold units. So yeah, I mean, that's a huge environmental impact, right? Because someone's not having to, it's not taking virgin material, for example, just to oversimplify it, and creating a brand new product where they could go and potentially buy whatever they want or need for something that's already been created. So the emissions have already been created, the everything. Like, yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Well, so REI has these product impact standards, and I guess y'all are assessing the brands that are selling to you, right? You want them to be able to meet your expectations. So how do y'all use some of these responses to evaluate these brands on their sustainability performance?
Yeah, so the responses are scored, and we share those directly with those brands to help them identify where they're excelling, where they're doing better, and where there are opportunities to further strengthen their programs. And we also use these responses internally to assess our own collective progress, sharing that story more broadly through things like our impact report and evaluating how we can best engage our brand partners. So we do this on an annual basis for our existing brands, as well as those that we onboard into REI to retail in our stores, is completing this annual assessment.
That's cool. So these brands are basically, they're getting a score. They know that where there are gaps and where they could improve, and through this assessment they can do that. And then there's a way to search, if they're searching online, consumers who are increasingly wanting to support these brands that have these attributes. There's a way to find those on your website, and I'm sure in store as well. So it's really I think a lot of brands, especially today, in today's kind of crazy world that we're living in, are like a little bit, I don't know. They're either green hushing, right, where they're doing things and not talking about it, or they're too scared about greenwashing. And what I like about this, and what I'm hearing, what I know about REI product impact standards, is it's putting them on a path to avoid greenwashing through a lot of third-party certifications that can verify and up their quality, and then get in front of those consumers who are actually putting their money where their mouth is and supporting those brands, which is pretty amazing. So all of that is to say, let's say that there's a small brand out there, right? And they're tiny brand, but their goal is to one day see their products on REI shelves. How could they use the product impact standards? Is there a shorter way to say that? Because I feel like I'm saying this a lot in this interview, but as a competitive advantage, like say during a line review, to say like, hey, we want to make sure that we're in line with what you're doing, because that's what we believe in too.
Yeah. The impact standards have, those expectations that I've listed. And I think that's a great way to start, is using that as a framework to understand kind of where are you right now within your, sustainability and climate and inclusion practices. What are REI's expectations? And, I don't think this is just important to REI, but it's important across the industry. Our standards don't list out exactly what you need to have, it needs to have X, Y, and Z, because we acknowledge that we're working with such a diversity of brands, from ones that are selling backpacking food to bikes to sunscreen, right? So it's hard to say this is exactly what you need for sunscreen and all those product types, but at least builds the basic framework for what we know is most important. And developing a program that works best for you, like I mentioned, start. You don't need to start from scratch. Like, there are a lot of good resources and guidance out there, much of which we try to provide to our the brands that we work with, and using that to kind of get started. You don't have to have like a fully fleshed out program. It can start from where you are, but again, the standards provides that kind of basic framework for what are the key points that you should have across those topics.
And so those are things. I mean, you've mentioned at a high level of climate, inclusion, animal welfare. Are those kind of like the big three that y'all are framing things under as it is today, right? Because y'all update it every year, I think. But
yeah, we update this annually. Chemicals management, setting chemicals emissions reduction targets and measuring your emissions. Those are kind of the basic framework, and then, like I mentioned, we have preferred attributes as kind of almost a second half of those standards. And that's that long list of third-party certifications that we think are impactful, are most pertinent to our industry and the products that we retail across our stores, and ones that we encourage our brands to pursue.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm actually, I think we have a mutual friend, Alex Lawver.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and he and I are giving a presentation at Switchback in a couple of weeks, and part of what we're talking about is educating retail staff on like sustainability storytelling and being able to, if someone's comparing two different jackets and they're in the store, right, and being able to say, hey, well, what I love about this brand is this, or what I love about this product is this, and using sustainability is a sales tool. So I'm curious, does REI educate your retail staff on the sustainable attributes of products and use that as a way to really provide more knowledgeable sales staff and ultimately better customer service?
Yes, we definitely do. Through a number of different ways, through trainings. It could be anything from webinars, trainings about our own products, to huddle cards that staff can circulate across their store meetings to talk about their products. And if you think about the products that we have in our stores, a lot of it is like performance driven, right? There's certain elements that pertain to the specific activity that it's for. So how can we embed sustainability into that training so that if you think about an REI staff member talking about one of our products, like, it's something to be prideful of. They want to share these things, and consumers want to hear those stories. And REI is leaning further into material innovation, things like textile recycling. We recently launched Lanza Tech, which uses feedstock materials from fermented greenhouse gas emissions that are captured at steel plants. So how can this be a part of that story that we can share to our consumers, whether that's in person or even on our product pages? How can we make that more kind of upfront for the consumer to see?
Yeah, yeah. God, that's wild. Taking, what is it, steel waste and turning into a new product like that did I hear you correctly when you said that? That's amazing.
Yeah, I've mentioned this to someone. They're like, "Oh, it's like kombucha for materials," and I'm like, "Yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it in." But it's yeah, it takes it captures greenhouse gas emissions, specifically, I think methane, I believe, and ferments that into a feedstock material that's used in plastics production or synthetics production. So that's embedded into some of our runware.
Yeah, that's super cool. And also just a great example of how sustainability can drive innovation, I think. Like, if you're just kind of, hey, this is the product we make and this is what works, and you're not innovating, you're missing the opportunity. And this is a great example of that. Like, that is just unbelievable. So I could nerd out on that for a while, but I'll spare our listeners on that. But that is awesome. All right, so you had you had mentioned earlier that 41% of y'all sales came from products that had REI's preferred attributes. I believe that was the stat. And I did take a look at y'all's impact report, which was awesome. But I'm curious, were there any other findings that are demonstrating that outdoor consumers are demanding more sustainable products?
Yes, and we do consumer insight studies to even just kind of to understand what resonates well with consumers. And like I mentioned before, I think durability and product quality resonates very strongly with our consumers. So I think for like our own products too, like how can we think about designing products that are durable, are repairable, and ultimately things that could be even recyclable? As we know, textiles can be really challenging to recycle. So that resonates a lot with consumers, hence why we've made those updates to our standards. And we know that consumers do want to purchase products that have these attributes, right? Like I mentioned, like you've mentioned, we're seeing a pretty significant percentage of our sales coming from products with attributes.
Yeah.
And a lot of excitement across our employees as well to understand, like, well, what do these products have? Tell me more about this LanzaTech product. Consumers love to hear these stories. So how can we bring that more front and center to the consumers throughout their shopping journey is something that is, we're focused on.
Yeah, make it easy for them, right? Like it's, if I'm looking for brands or products that are more sustainable, just having that ability to search and find it more quickly is a big step in the right direction, right? I think anyway, like being able to say, hey, I want to support brands that are, I don't know, maybe they have the climate label and I want to be able to find those products and support only those brands that are taking climate action. You could do that, which is really, really, I think important is the convenience of it, I guess, is
Absolutely.
I mean, people don't want to have to read an entire research report. If you can just I would, because I'm a nerd, but the average consumer says, hey, I just want to support the companies that are doing the right thing. They can easily do that, which is cool.
Yeah, it's these are searchable features that you can filter down by product, or excuse me, by brand, and even down to the product. And even our product pages on the bottom right, you can see all the attributes that are specific to those the product that you're looking at, as well as the features, the kind of more bulleted features that may speak a little bit more to some of the things like LanzaTech. What is that? What are we talking about when we say LanzaTech? You can learn a little bit more about that directly on those product pages. But to what you've mentioned, climate label is a really great indicator of what is a brand actively reducing emissions. So that's a searchable feature. Our REI brand is certified to the climate label. So if you search that, you'll see all of our products listed there, as well as
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
We set out with a New Earth project to really start a movement.
It's a global coalition of people who are deeply concerned and want to accelerate the transition away from problematic packaging to more sustainable solutions.
Our entire value proposition was built on helping companies package things better. We were doing sustainability before sustainability was cool. We just called it packaging optimization. And packaging optimization really is about using less. And we built our whole business on that. You know, people send us their products, their goods, and we help them design packaging systems and solutions for the least possible cost, utilizing the least amount of material. Use less is always the right answer.
And that's what I see with companies like a New Earth Project, is it's like, we're just trying to create solutions for big companies and small, that makes it easier for them, cheaper for them, whatever it is, and then has less impact. Not just trying to tell people you should have less impact and making the choice forced on them. Like, make it better for everybody, and it'll make it better for the whole world.
We see the problem, and we are with you.
You'll do a lot. So it's like, you know, the climate label, plus you're supporting conservation nonprofits, and working to reduce your own footprint. So, I mean, I just really commend y'all for a company of your size doing the right thing, and really putting your money where your mouth is. I mean, you know, not everyone can say that. So that's pretty impressive.
appreciate that. Thanks.
All right. So Brent, let's shift gears. We've officially nerded out on sustainability and products, but this is also, you know, the angler part of this podcast. There's we should talk a little fishing, right? So I'm curious. I believe you are also an angler. Is that?
I sure am. Yeah. And I will add, it's a pleasure to be on a podcast where I can talk about both fishing and sustainability. As I'm sure many of my teammates are like, oh my God, when is Brent going to stop talking about fishing at work? So if you provide me with the opportunity to, I will gladly talk your head off on fishing.
Let's talk some fishing, because there is this connection, right? Of everything, the work that REI does, and any brand really that's out there working to improve their sustainability performance, that is connected to this greater everything, right? It's everything from the packaging of your products. It's everything from greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, just all sorts of stuff that is a result of your business that affects our fisheries and our ecosystems. So let's, you're in Seattle, but you're from Hawaii. Did you grow up fishing in Hawaii? Did you get into fishing when you moved to Seattle? How did that work?
Yeah, it started with hanging out with my grandpa on the pier in Honolulu with a bamboo stick with some bread and shrimp at the end, catching nothing, but just enjoying the vibes. And, you know, moving to Seattle, I'm like, dang, this COVID thing sucks. How can I get outside? Well, let's give fishing a try. And it just kind of grew from there. So, yeah, whatever's in season, I'm out there. If it's nice and warm, you know, I'm out on the coast fishing for some perch or maybe catching some crab. Or once fall hits and the salmon starts swimming back upriver, I'm out at our local rivers here, fishing for some salmon and maybe steelhead. That one's a little bit trickier, but you know how it is. I believe you're a fly fisherman. I don't fly fish. I gave it a try once or twice, one of which was in 40-mile-per-hour winds, which I was convinced I'm awful. Well. That's what the guy told me. He's like, Brent, you know, it's not you, it's the wind. I'm like, okay, well, I'll give it another go sometime.
No, it's so I'll do anything. I'll fish cut bait. I'll fish artificials. I'll fly fish. I really like different aspects of all of them, but yeah, I've gotten into fly fishing, I guess, because like all fly anglers were psychos and want to make this as difficult as possible, I guess. It wouldn't be a good way to provide for your family if you were feeding them. I wouldn't recommend fly fishing, but yeah, I have never, I've never fished in the Pacific Northwest, so that's on my list. And I hear steelheading is very addictive, and salmon fishing and all those things.
Yeah, come out to the Pacific Northwest. I believe Alex also fishes out here as well. So we'll need to get you out here. And, we're blessed to be in a region with just so much diversity of fishing. If it's rivers, it's lakes. If it's backpacking season, I'm out at the Alpine Lakes fishing for some beautiful rainbow or brook trout. Or you can head out to the coast, harvest some shellfish. So
Love that.
there's a lot to do out here. It's a little bit colder than it is in Hawaii. I feel like in Hawaii, the successful fishermen may be the ones that have boats. So I still need to make more friends with boats, both here in Seattle and out in Hawaii, and maybe I can catch some bigger ones.
That's the that is the key, right? You don't need to own a boat. You just need to have plenty of friends with them, and that's the way to go.
Exactly.
Well, so I'm curious though. So it sounds like you like to do a little bit of everything, right? Just being out on the water.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned like during COVID, you're like, how can I get outside? And this was a way to do that. What is it that about fishing in particular that you just really kind of grabbed onto through that process?
There's something gratifying about perfecting an art, and you'll never be the best at it. You can do everything right, and you'll spend hours catching nothing.
Yeah.
But one day you'll catch something, like sometimes I go out before work just for a few hours and I won't catch anything. But a couple years ago, I was like, oh, I'll go out for like an hour or two before work. And I hooked 2 massive king salmon that I brought in. And that never happens. I came home and I was like, I told my wife, like, oh my gosh, we got to buy a chest freezer. Like, I don't think this is enough room. And so, you get hooked, no pun intended there.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what really draws me to that. It's like the search, right?
Yeah, totally. And it's just the whole, I don't know it's kind of a hopeful sport, right? Because it's like the next cast could be the one. This could be the one. A lot of times
just being outside, being connected with, the outdoors and perfecting an art and or a hobby, which way you want to define that, and just being out there. And it brings me back to hanging out with my grandpa. That's something near and dear to me. So to be out there in the outdoors and enjoy some of that from when I was a kid. Every time my grandpa said, let's go fishing, oh man, it was going to be a good day.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. It's similar, right? I remember going fishing with my grandparents on the dock, and it's just a reflective and happy memories. And then you kind of get into it, and as you get more into it, the more crazy you can get with it, which is apparently going off the deep end. But
I was like, hey, I'll start with stock trout. And I was like, oh my God, I caught my first stock trout. I was like, I can do this. I'm going to go catch a steelhead, which is apparently a bigger trout.
Yeah.
Little did I know, people call it the fish of 1,000 casts, and that was not the fish to transition to from trout. But as it goes, right, you convince yourself, oh, I need this rod for this fish, right? I now want to go get that fish, and it's a lifetime sport as long as you can get out there on the water, be it a boat or a bank fisherman like me.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so how or have you been able to, and I know we kind of mentioned this earlier, but I'd be curious to get your take. Have you been able to connect work that you do, right, and the sustainability space with protecting fish that you love, and if so, how has that impacted your work or your life?
Yeah, I think as a recreational fisherman, like we have a responsibility of understanding the history of the areas in which we fish,
Mm.
and the impacts that are, that we see across our region. And I think that's particularly so pertinent with the Pacific Northwest and understanding urbanization of our rivers and, the impacts to habitat and the communities of which, indigenous communities have thrived off of in this region. So earlier this year, I recently joined the board of a Seattle-based salmon and steelhead nonprofit, really focused on conserving and restoring populations of salmon and steelhead and recreational fisheries. So just started that journey, but just another way I think about, how can I take what I understand about climate and sustainability and apply that to the good work that this organization is doing in this region and beyond.
Love that. What's the name of the nonprofit? Just out of curiosity.
They're called Long Live the Kings. They've been around in Seattle for many years now and have done a lot of tremendous work and understanding, the many impacts or the many impacts that are occurring to our salmon and steelhead population. Like you mentioned, climate change is one of which, rising water temperatures, predation, pollution, habitat, impacts to habitat, a lot of, kind of what we're seeing across many of our rivers here in Washington.
Yeah. We see it here in Charleston. We've got sea level rise happening in real time. We're seeing different species moving further north, so different in migratory patterns. So yeah, I mean it's really everywhere. So that's I don't often get to speak to someone who's in sustainability and is also an angler. So I had to see how you were connecting that, because I see it and I'm like, it seems so obvious. It seems like any angler or any even brand for that matter would want to mitigate those effects. So it's to I guess kind of bring this conversation full circle. It's like, yeah, if you were a brand and you were looking for like, hey, what are some key areas I should focus on and build this framework, you should look at REI product impact standards, I think. And that could be a way to sort of start your journey and then figure out how to go deeper. So for whatever that's worth, any listeners out there, you should Google that, check that out, or where can folks find more information on the impact report or all the other cool stuff REI is doing with sustainability?
Yeah, we're pretty transparent. So have a look at our website. Our impact report was published a few weeks ago, as well as our product impact standards are public facing, so you can give that a quick search and scroll through that. Cool. So a lot of good information out there that you can take a look at.
Awesome. Well, Brent, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate everything that you're doing personally, and also that REI is doing. I think that, in my opinion, using a market force like REI setting their own standards is a really powerful way to get companies to start taking action on everything from climate to inclusion to chemical and reducing harmful chemicals in your products. So it's this has just been informative, and I hope the listeners out there who maybe, especially if they're brands, can maybe use that as a reference. And also hope that if you're an angler, go to rei.com and just search for products that align with their values. Use these search tools if nothing else. I really appreciate your time and thanks so much for doing this.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure talking both sustainability and fishing with you. Really enjoyed today's conversation. So thank you so much again for having me today.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to head over to emergerstrategies.com for all your sustainability consulting needs, and check out our new The Compliance Ready Brand Blueprint, which is designed to get your sustainability house in order in 30 days or less.